You know, my motto is Excelsior. That's an old word that means upward and onward to greater glory. It's on the seal of the state of New York, keeping moving forward. And if it's time to go, it's time. Nothing lasts forever. Now, that quote I have to disagree with. That is a quote from back in 1922. Born a little skinny Jewish kid in one of the 5 boroughs of New York. Kid by the name of Stanley Lieber. And that man eventually shortened his name. Served in a world war. And then became the hero to, dare I say, billions of people. Well, Stan Lee died today at the age of 95. And there's a lot of people out there who have felt his effect. And I thought I would just take a little time to share my recollection of Stan Lee. Now, when I was a little kid growing up in the, let's just say the early 70s, I was a pretty sickly kid. I was anemic. My legs were bad to the point where for 2 full years I had to wear a full cage from my hip all the way down to my feet. The only time I ever got to take it off was when I would take a bath every 3 or 4 days. And I didn't have a lot of outdoor time because it's really hard to get around when your legs are caged. And about the same time, I was finding out that I was not very socially inclined. As a matter of fact, I had a chronic stutter. It was a pretty bad one. And so I really didn't have much of a place to turn except comic books. Comic books were my refuge because at the time I was so young. Reading a book, not yet able to do, see spot run kind of stuff, yeah. But as far as being able to get into those books that were creative, that had a big story to them, that were epic, adventurous, fascinating, enthralling, just wasn't at that reading level yet. So my gateway in was comic books. And when I couldn't go out and play with the kids, when I couldn't have an actual social interaction, talking back and forth to a peer, I knew I could always escape into my comic books. And my favorite comic book growing up was the Fantastic Four. And Stan Lee wrote, I would say, probably about the first... I think he wrote the first 120 issues of the Fantastic Four, and that was pretty much right there in my wheelhouse as a kid, around the end of his run. And therein lie my sanity, because I couldn't do the things other kids could do, both physically and I guess representationally, because it was really hard to take that thought that was in my head that got trapped on my tongue to be able to share that. And Stan Lee, though he never knew me, gave me the ability to dream, the ability to imagine, to have a thought that I could be a creative person and that I didn't really need to let words, the spoken kind, get in my way. Now, 30 years ago, to the month, I met Stan Lee. He was at the Mid-Ohio Comic-Con. It was his first and only appearance. This was back in 1988. 30 years ago. So the man was 65 years old. He had more energy than any 65-year-old man that I had ever met. It was kind of nice. Back then, it wasn't all mucked up like you would see, the big, huge lines at San Diego Comic-Con, or you'd see at the, the NYCC. And the artists and writers that would sign normally did it for free. And usually they had artwork on the side, or like a script that they had written on the side, or some book that they had written and got vanity pressed that they were selling. So if you really liked the person, you get your autographs for free. And then if you wanted to have them do a sketch or buy a book that they wrote, then that was all cool. So I don't know why they didn't have it, but they didn't have Stan up on the larger dais. Dais, excuse me. They had, comic book artists like, I think it was that year, there was Frank Miller, and there was John Byrne, and there was Todd McFarlane. So I guess they got the higher up seats, which I kind of thought was sad, because the fact that, Stan Lee, creator of Fantastic Four, X-Men, Iron Man, Thor, Spider-Man, you pretty much name it. Any book that came out from 1961 until about 1969 for Marvel had Stan's thumbprint in it. And he was off to the side of the diocese, and of course I knew where he was going to be at, because I knew one of the guys who was running the convention, and he told me where they were going to set Stan up. So I kind of had an advantage, and I got in line early. There was only probably about a dozen people ahead of me. I had brought with me the Marvel Masterworks, which is a combined volume of the first 10 issues of the Fantastic Four. And I brought my very own copy, very dog-eared, very worn out, of Fantastic Four number 24. It was the first appearance of the Frightful Four. And I just waited patiently in line. And it was really nice, because you would see him talking to the people. Each person that would come up, he would greet them. It wasn't just, here's your signatures, next. Here's your signature, next. Not some. The best case I can say is when I brought my books up for him to sign, he was like, "Oh, this is a good book." And then I handed him the Fantastic Four 24, and he's like, you know what? I remember when I wrote this book. He proceeded to go into a story to tell me how they created, him and Jack Kirby created Fantastic Four number 24. And he legit spent as much time with people as he wanted to. It never felt like he felt he was rushed. It never felt like you were just another number. He greeted you warmly and sincerely. It was an amazing thing that this guy, who is legit part of the godhood of the pantheon, which is comic books, that he deigned to spend time with the fans. And he appreciated them, each and every one of them. Everybody who came up with a book that wasn't, something generic, like an autograph or a poster to sign. If they came up with a book, he had a story for them. And it was so funny. The creator of the books, Grendel and Mage, he also revived the DC comic book character Demon. His name was Matt Wagner, and I got my stuff signed, and it felt kind of bad because really he probably would have talked a little bit longer. But I kind of got my story, and I thanked him, and I shook his hand, and I was walking away, and then I just noticed that he was doing that with everybody, telling stories, and he kind of reminded me of my grandfather. My grandfather was one of the best Appalachian storytellers that I had ever heard. But Stan Lee, he was a New York storyteller. And they weren't fish tales, they weren't tall tales. And I had interviewed Matt Wagner the previous day. And I was standing there kind of leaning against the table, and I looked over and I was like, "Oh, dude, I don't want to be in your way." And he's like, "Hey, come here." And he pulled out the seat next to him, and he's like, "Dennis is off on his break. He's not going to be back. So take a seat." So I sat next to Matt Wagner, and we sat there and didn't say a word to each other. And for 2 hours, we just sat there listening to Stan tell tales, listening to the man hold court. And he was, at this time, guys, he was 65 years old, and he never repeated a story. He never was unclear or fuzzy about something. His eyes just sparkled, definitive, like he was passing along the legends of the Greek heroes that back then could only be passed from mouth to ear and from generation to generation. He was telling these stories which felt so incredibly important, so incredibly valuable, that the poor convention people eventually had to start clearing the crowd, because once people would hear the story, they would still kind of congregate, and so the line went from a straight line. It's kind of like if you take water from a water pitcher and you pour it onto a surface, a limited surface. It'll hit the surface and then spill out to the sides and then eventually start filling up. That's kind of how it was. So they had to move people along, but it was so cool because Matt had offered me a seat next to him, and I got to sit back behind the table. It's so funny too, because somebody mistaked me as some type of comic book artist. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like, well, you're sitting behind a table. I'm like, yeah, but that's because I don't want the security for the con to kick me out, so I can sit here and listen to Stan Lee. And legit, we listened to him for about 2 hours, and he had to take a lunch break at the time, and he was only going to be there, I believe it was, for like 4 hours. But those 2 hours were just magical, to where you could see a man who had realized his dream, a man who had grabbed on to the heights of his imagination and took it from inner space to outer space. A guy who had revolutionized the comic book industry, but his happiness always lay in the fact that he was doing something that meant something not only to all the people who read it, but to himself. I found that to be amazing. I found it to be jaw-dropping. And so when they were escorting him to go out and have lunch, because they wanted to take him out to dinner. Matter of fact, some of the other artists that were there um, who'd never had a chance to talk with Stan Lee or ever get to work with him professionally, you saw like about a half a dozen of the artists and writers disappear, and they were all headed out the door so they could go to this dinner with Stan or this midday lunch. And I maneuvered around, being all sly and slick like I am, and I maneuvered around to where he was waiting in a little side hallway, waiting for the car to come so they could take him to lunch. And I didn't press up against him, and it's kind of funny because people that you really respect, there seems to be some type of force field around them where you automatically want to stay back and not crowd them, to give the king his regal walk, so to speak. And while he was waiting, he kind of was just looking around, not having much to say. And me, like a total fucking geek, I stood next to him and I said, "You know what? I'm going to work for you someday." And he just looked at me and he smiled and he said, "I hope you do. I hope you do." And the car came, and that's when he went off. I never worked for Marvel Comics. I never saw Stan Lee again. He never came back around to our area. But only one time. That's what it took. Now, since then, the autographs that I have, I still have the issue 24, but the Marvel Masterworks I gave to a friend of a friend who is in love with the Fantastic Four as much as I was. And really, Stan Lee, one autograph is all you need if you're a fan. But I got the greatest gift on that day in November 1988. To be able to sit back and listen to the master spin his tales. Telling him how he did it in his own way, and it not being sound bites. Not being, clipped out pieces of media set into some type of documentary. He had free reign on his stories, and he embellished. And I'll say this. I don't think I will ever miss Stan Lee, because I can look over on my bookshelf and he's there. All the stories that he created, all of the encouragement that he gave me as a crippled, stuttering, anemic kid to try to realize your dream and your fantasy. So I have to say that in his quote, when he says nothing lasts forever, I beg to differ, Mr. Lieber. I think the things that you have created have left an imprint that will be indelible for time immemorial. You and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko helped create our Greek myths, our legends, our hero tales that will pass on forever and ever. And they have become a part of our culture. So, I can't agree. Nothing lasts forever. I think your legacy will. And I was proud to meet you, and more so, to be inspired by you. Rest in peace, Stan. Rest in peace. Hi, Cadet.
Hi, Doc.
How you doing?
I'm glad I was able to make it in at that point because that was really beautiful.
Yeah, he was a good guy, and a serial monogamist like a son of a bitch. I'm telling you.
Have you said hi to the chat yet?
I have not even bothered to look at the chat because I just wanted to get that out.
No worries. I figured I'll get that started. You had the beautiful job of actually saying something beautiful and worthwhile about all of this. I yeah, I'm terrible at this stuff. So hello Eric, Jolly Rogers Bilgewater, Kuna Doom, loved your video from earlier. Turish, Adamantine, Merc, and Henry G. Um,
Good morning, everyone. Um, I, I think uh, I, I, I don't think I rant as well as Kadant, but I'm a decent rambler.
I'm sure if something triggered your timbers enough, you could rant just fine, Doc.
Oh,
Uh,
I've, I've had over 5 decades to simmer down.
well, let me see. Kuna Doom is saying, people like Stanley make you realize that there's every reason to have small bits of faith in our species. Lost a little more today. I'm sorry, Coon. Henry G is saying he doesn't like hearing sad Doc and Cadunt. Well, this is just me trying to be somber, but you hear me sad quite often, more often than you may realize.
Well,
I'm just really, really good at turning my sadness over.
and
Don't worry, I'll
honestly,
do.
uh, I'm 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 not sad about him passing because I follow Stanley and I followed him like a maniac. And I mean, I'm to the point where I have the Fantastic Four tattooed on my calf. That's how much of an influence and an inspiration they were. Um, and he was declining. He was getting really bad in like the last five years. And with all the weird stories about supposedly the abuse he was suffering, and the people just kind of making his life a living hell to get at his money. Because I mean, he's worth like $70 million.
Minimum.
Yeah, that's what they estimated his value. But
Hi, Mr. LM. Hey, Malachite.
and yes, good morning to everyone. I swear that I'll catch up. Um, but um, yeah, I have no. I mean, my God, the man when he hit the comic industry. I don't know if you know the story, but um, he and the guys who ran DC and the guys who ran Carlton. Was it Carlton? No, Fawcett. Fawcett was the one that did Captain Marvel. You know, the Shazam guy? Um, well, they would go out and they would play a few rounds of golf and pick each other's brains. They were highly competitive people. And they would always try to see, oh, well, what are you guys doing? What type of book is selling for you? And Stan had come out of the war and he went straight into writing for magazine periodicals and then eventually comic books. He was a writer on the Timely staff. Timely eventually became Marvel. Um, but they were saying, well, you got to write something. You got to get a hit. You got to catch up with what DC's doing. DC has superhero teams, and every month was new villain for this month. They're fighting such and such. However it goes, the comic books were incredibly formulaic back in the late 50s and early 60s. Well, Stan had about had enough of it. He was done. Stan Lee was going to quit. And his his wife, I believe her name was Jeannie. his wife just basically said, well, you don't like the comic, you don't like doing the comic book thing anymore. And, technically, um, technically Stan Lee, when he would go to parties, he would just say, I write. And they're like, oh, well, what do you write? Well, I kind of write periodicals. Oh, well, what kind of periodicals? And they would stretch him out to the point where he'd have to admit that he wrote comic books, because the comic book industry had no respect in the 40s, the 50s. But I'm trying to remember. Oh, no, Joan. Her name was Joan. And his wife just basically said, well, if you're going to quit, then why don't you just write a book the way you want to write it? What have they not let you do? If you're going out the door, you might as well go out the door with a bang. So why don't you just write a book like you want to write it? And that was what became the Fantastic Four, which completely changed the industry, because it was the first time where a writer created characters that actually had real world problems. Like in issue 4, they get evicted from the Baxter Building because they didn't have the rent to pay. I mean, things of course turned around for them, but I mean, it's the first time where you had characters that would look inward and see their flaws and decide to be heroes regardless of what their flaws were. And that man, Stan Lee, by himself, well, I won't say by himself, because he had one of the most dynamic comic book artists by his side. Well, two of them technically, Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, and they made some impressive stuff. And I think another reason why I was expecting Stan to die is because last year is when Joan died. And they had been together since they were, in their late teens, early 20s? I mean, they had a relationship that went for, 70 years? And I can't imagine being married, having somebody in my life that long, and me expecting to live any longer without them. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's one of those things where, and it's a common thing where, like, when it's especially when it's a long relationship, but when it's a loving one, the spouse does not survive too long after the other passes. It's very common, and I agree. Like I was, after his wife had passed, I'd been waiting for it.
What?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were a little low there for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said after his wife had passed, I was waiting for it, because it's a common thing for, especially when it's a loving relationship, let alone a long and loving one, that when the spouse passes, the other passes, not too long after.
Well, there's a symbiosis to a long relationship. And, you can say almost parasitic, because you legitimately feed off of each other. I know my grandfather was the same way when my grandmother died. But within like a year or two, he had gotten married again. So I think it was more of a marriage of convenience, because they needed to have somebody to be with them. And, well, he outlived her too. My grandfather passed last year, at the age of 93. And I would say he was pretty much in the same condition that Stan was for his last few years. But yeah, I'm glad. I'm so glad that now he's at his rest. He doesn't have to dick with anything anymore. I saw some comic book convention footage, and this was after Joan had passed last year, where he looked so frail. He didn't look vibrant at all. Um, you could have stuffed a scarecrow, and it would have looked more animated. But yeah, he was a nice guy. Now there's some people that I've met in the comic book industry who are total dicks, but Stan definitely wasn't one. I think because he was part of the old guard that he recognized and respected the fact that he had fans. Whereas nowadays, some of these guys that are in the comic book industry demand fans.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten all flipped around. What do you want, Parrot Cat? No, you're not. No, you're not coming down to my lap. I don't care how hard you purr. Go away.
Jolly Rogers is saying Johnny Cash, prime example.
Um, Wait a minute. Did June die first? I thought June died after him. Let's see here.
This is this is definitely one of those things.
Oh, they died in the same year.
Yeah. This is definitely one of those things where it's it's sad. Uh, but at the same time, like it's not. It was time. It was time. He got to live his life, and now he gets to be with his wife, and and not deal with fucked people, and not deal with having pneumonia and getting sick and hospitals and any of that jazz. And like I think one of my things that I like to think of is like some of my favorite cameos that he had done in the movies, because those were a treat in and of themselves. I was on a stream earlier, and they're talking about one of the people was talking about him being at a Comic Con. Like oh, it was Tyro. Tyro had been talking about him being at a Comic Con, and the Agents of Shield panel. Like Stan Lee came over to the panel, and like everybody just kind of fanboyed like and fangirled over Stan Lee showing up, including like the entirety of the panel. And no matter what, like he had a positive impact, and that in and of itself deserves some respect. It's one of those things that it sucks he's gone, but the quote that I posted on one of the posts that I'd done earlier on Twitter is probably my favorite Stan Lee quote, which is what is a legacy? It's planting the seeds to a garden that you're never going to get to see. And right now his garden is flourishing, and it's been flourishing. Like I think he got to see some of the sproutings of it, and of course the weeds as well, but he helped to create some of the most memorable
Go.
and defining
Go.
characters in comic book history, and he helped to create the sense of being people. Like you brought up the Fantastic Four, like they dealt with real issues that wasn't just about, fighting bad guys. Like, and that's one of the things. I forgot who it was who had mentioned in the stream earlier, but like one of the questions that had been asked him, uh or no, that not that had been asked of him, but that he had asked another comic book creator was, well, who is this person? Like, who is the character? And they're like, oh, well, they fight, blah blah blah, and this is their powers. No, no, no. Who is he outside of the suit?
Yeah.
What is his life outside of the suit? And I think that's one of the things that Stan Lee, helped to create and to define, not necessarily create, but to help define, which is the fact that, like, you can be superheroes, you know, but you're a regular person as well. And that was his superpower. He was comic book creator by day, but a an icon.
Oh yeah. I the only thing I find sad about that era was that Jack Kirby never got his due before he died. Whereas, I mean, Stan at the end of his career was in his Halcyon days. I mean, he got to see all of his characters come to life, and that must be an amazing thing. I know, I get a kick out of when I write a story and they adapt it into an audio play, and I can listen to it with, you know, different voice actors and sound effects and a musical score to it. That is just amazing to me. Um, I've never contributed to the birth of children, so those are technically my kids. Oh, good morning, OG Phantom.
Hi, OG Phantom.
Um, but yeah, and I I'm not sure. I think it was Midnight's Edge that talked about, this is a while back, talked about how he filmed both of his cameos for the Infinity War movies, both one and two, where he had just filmed them back to back because he was in failing health. So they got both of them out of the way. So we'll probably see one more cameo from Stan Lee, which I think is kind of nice because you know they're going to dedicate the next movie to him. I don't know what the
Yeah.
next movie is in the Marvel lineup, but
Is it Captain Marvel?
is it?
I I I I think it is. Don't quote me on this, but I I believe it is supposed to be um the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel movie, which I'm sure he has a cameo in that as well.
Yeah.
Uh and Mr. LM was mentioning my favorite cameo, which was Stanley in the strip club as the DJ. Next up, Chastity.
Uh,
That's
oh,
definitely my favorite.
hi, OG Phantom's wife, because it's not actually OG Phantom, it's OG Phantom's wife.
Hello, OG Phantom's wife.
Um, I don't know. I think my favorite, it has to go back to the first actually released Fantastic Four movie where he played the part of the Fantastic Four's mailman, Willie Lumpkin. And they were talking about how they were filming it. And he only had like one line, like, here's your mail today, Mr. Richards. And that was it. But he ad libbed like a motherfucker every time they did a take. He he would always try to add something on there, like Yeah, here's your mail, Mr. Richards. Looks like a bunch of bills again. You know, he just keeps trying to tag on more lines. So he was a ham, but a ham in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, one of his first cameos when he was in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. It was it was such a cheesy line, but still, like, it was he'd been looking up at a billboard or something. I forget what it was, and right next to Peter Parker, and he's like, "Well, I guess one person really can make a difference." And you know what? That line in and of itself is really fitting for Stanley, because one person, like, he's just one person, but he really did make a difference, and he made an impact, and I think a lot of people will forget that. Right now, I'm hoping that this will just, it'll be like the David Bowie or the Prince passing, or the Christopher Lee passing, like, where people will just keep with that sense of respect for long enough, because they made their impact, and it was in a positive way, and even if it's not directly uh involved with somebody's life, they were involved in many people's lives. I think it was Jeff Holiday who had tweeted about how Stanley had made an impact, on his life in a positive way, and I think that's true for a lot of us, without us even really knowing, you know. Uh, One of the big reasons why, you know, people get their hearts broken by celebrities passing is it's a connecting force. Like, there's something that they created that hit us in a way, or yeah, hit at least a good majority of us in a positive way, that really helped in some way, shape, or form, and in some aspect. And so, like, if I passed, you know, um, I'd have a small group of people that would be impacted by it, because there's not much out there from me that made any real kind of difference in a lot of people's lives. But I made an impact with enough people, and I gave memories to enough people, and with Stan Lee, it was a lot of people, you know.
Well, and back in the day, it was like, only kids are reading these. They're the median age of a comic book reader was somewhere around 11 or 12, and now the actual median age is about 22, 23. And I would like to think that he had the impact to be able to bring a new perspective, because the comics industry was pretty much shit in the 60s. It was dying, and he revitalized comic books, brought them back as an art, as a storyteller medium, because every generation, every society needs their heroes to inspire them and move them forward to positive conclusions. And he came along at the time when that generation, which was becoming disillusioned, and we were getting ready to go into the Vietnam War. Well, technically we had been in Vietnam since 55, but 1961 was the first issue of the Fantastic Four, and the generations were kind of rudderless at that point. And I think, and not to sound all all big brained or anything on it, but I think this was a societal benchmark of something that needed to happen in order to be able to inspire and drive people along a better or more moral path.
Mhm. I mean, even back then, like even if it's just comic books for kids, there's a reason why there's some, you know, those made and those are some of the defining years too, is when you're a child and getting yourself into something like comic books where you see this positive force, and especially when it came to like Stan Lee's comic books, where you see like these regular people who are trying to and struggling to live regular lives while at the same time trying to do something more and heroic, um, and they're doing it no matter what they always wind up rising above their their struggles, and that can
Privet,
inspire kids.
get your ass down.
I'm sitting, I promise.
Get off the table right now. There's a squirt bottle with your name on it.
Oh
That's
no,
what I thought.
I swear I'll stay off of the table, Doc. I don't make money doing that anymore.
You're all right. I'm trying to think. I think, yeah. Well, technically, Stan Lee's first cameo was in the Trial of the Incredible Hulk. They put it in for a lark. They made him a jury member. But the first actual movie that he was in, well, technically it was Blade, but they cut the cameo. You can still see it in like the special features, but they cut his cameo. So the first, silver screen appearance was the first X-Men movie, and then he was in
Wait, was he in the first X-Men movie?
he was in the first X-Men movie.
I don't remember that
Uh,
one.
do you remember when the senator escaped after being hit by the mutagen ray, and he came up from the beach?
Yeah.
He washed up on shore and started walking away. Well, Stan Lee was one of the guys on the beach.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I just remembered like one of the big things was uh he wasn't he never really had such kind of cameos. Not entirely. He never really had cameos in the Fox movies.
Oh, he did. He did. He was in the X-Men. All the hold on. I'm on fire.
Uh-oh.
God damn it. Stop being on fire.
Hey, Bubonic.
Cherry fell off the cigarette.
Uh,
Mm.
cigarette. That's a good idea.
Well, that's what you get when you roll your own. Um uh he was in, let's see, X-Men, he was in the first Spider-Man, he was in Daredevil, he was in Hulk. The first one, and the one in Hulk was good because he played a security guard, and his security guard buddy was Lou Ferrigno.
See, the main one, like, I remember the first one that I truly remember was him being in the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, which, to me, I thought was a big deal because well, at that point, it was owned by Sony. And then the first Fox one that I was aware of again was Deadpool. So I was like, thank you, and I'm pretty sure that had to have been at least one of his favorite cameos. Like, if you're a guy and you're asked to be in you're asked to do a cameo, and your cameo just happens to be in a strip club, awesome. um But if I'm wrong, and I don't care. That's my headcanon. Like, that's all I'm gonna say is that's my headcanon. Is his favorite was the one in Deadpool. So I was unaware of the X-Men cameos.
Yeah, he was in all of them, including he also did a non-Marvel cameo in the movie Big Hero 6.
Oh yeah, no, he was the painting.
Well, no, at the very end they had an end scene where one of the kids goes back and wants to talk to his dad, and
Mm-hmm.
his dad is actually a superhero and lets him into his lair to show him all of his gadgets. He was
Oh
also on Agents of Shield too.
yeah, Bubonic and somebody else earlier. OG Phantom, I believe, or I guess OG Phantom's wife, had keep mentioning Mallrats. Although that I don't know if that counts as a cameo,
Well,
since
he was Stan Lee.
yeah, but yeah, he was playing as Stan Lee, so I don't know if that counts as a cameo.
And yeah, technically that would be his first movie cameo, because Kevin Smith is such a comic book geek.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of Stan Lee out there, and I think that even if you didn't meet him, um, you can definitely get to know the man. Now, I predict within the next 5 years, there's going to be a major biopic come out of Stan. I think that is a property that Disney will definitely go after. That's something that'll be a labor of love for some director out there, and it's going to be a good movie, but it's going to be so cheesy because of the fact of the way that he lived his life. I mean, uh, he was a boomer. I mean, hard work and determination pays off. And
hi Michael.
there's no real big crises to be had. Oh, good morning, Bubonic, and good morning, Michael. So yeah, I think it's going to be one of those heart tuggers, but
Mm.
I think he's worthy of it. Well, Jolly Rogers, it's just I kind of I kind of know how the movie process works. Good morning, Chief Lakota.
Hey,
Hey,
Chief Lakota.
and somebody could right now be finishing up the best script in the world for it, and it's still going to take 2 to 3 years to get greenlit. And more than likely, it's going to be one of those little indie offshoot companies that Marvel owns. That's going to flag it for like a $5 or $10 million project. I don't know if he used Chillicothe, but I do know that he was the first comic book writer to write in New York City. He's like, no, we're not going to have a Gotham. No, we're not going to have a Metropolis. Let's set it in New York City.
Yeah, make it a real place. Yeah. Would you be my neighbor movie?
Um, yeah, I don't know. Uh, Mr. LM, is that movie out yet? I thought they were just wrapping on the post with that one.
It might be. I mean, I have a feeling we're not going to stop seeing Stanley cameos uh, for at least a couple more movies in the Marvelverse, which, well, they'd probably have to get permission from his family for that.
Well, only one he's got
Just
left is
like with hmm?
he's got a daughter left, and he signed the contract, so he shot it. there's no way that they could legitimately stop him from appearing in what is it, Avengers Annihilation.
Hmm.
So, but that's the last one that he filmed a cameo for.
Well, I mean, it's like with the new Star Wars movie, Last Jedi. They had to get Carrie Fisher's family's permission. Well, they didn't have to. They asked for it because she'd already like filmed a lot of their parts. Like they did that more out of respect. Um, so so yeah, but I guess
Uh,
we'll see.
uh, Mr. LM, there's a I was gonna say there's a shit ton of documentaries out there about the people that I call the big three, which are Lee, Kirby, and Ditko,
Hmm.
and all three of them are gone now. I tried to go back and get interviews for people who worked for Atlas Comics, and those were some of the same people that came in the mid '70s, the booming of the comic book era, and that was a little tough because a lot of them had been dead by that point. But one of the uh, big creative forces, the editor in chief of Atlas Comic Books, was a guy by the name of Larry Lieber. Now, of course, I already gave it away that uh, Stan's real name was Stanley Martin Lieber, but he shortened it to Stan Lee because he wanted to shake off any of the there was a dislike for Jews, so he thought he would Americanize it as a professional.
Hello, Lady Lonby.
Good morning, Lady Lomby. And but Larry Lieber was the editor in chief for Atlas Comics for the year that it ran. But here's a nice piece of trivia. He was the guy who came up with the name for Thor's hammer.
Meow meow?
Yeah, Mjolnir. And
No, meow meow.
no, not meow meow.
It's meow meow.
Meow meow. Um, but and then Stan remarked back to him, "Well, what the hell does that mean?" He's like, "I don't know. It sounds Scandinavian." He's like, "All right." He actually wrote it down on a piece of paper and gave it to Stan. So he knew what the spelling was.
Well, that's it's not that he made up the name that is the name of Thor's hammer in the Norse mythos.
Technically, it didn't have a name, just like Shushalane's Sword of Light. It was basically Thor's. Uh, well, here's the thing. In the original Norse mythos, he really didn't have a hammer. You know, he rode around on a bunch of goats, and whatever club or sword or weapon was around, he'd just pick it up and beat the shit out of people with it.
Well, no, because there is a story about Thor dressing up for a wedding. He. Okay, let me correct myself. Thor dressed up as I believe it was Freya. It was either Freya or Freya, one of the two. They're interchangeable to me. I always forget. Uh, because the giants had like this major hard on for her, and they'd stolen the hammer, you know, and and so Thor, to get it back, like they're like, we need to get it back, but they're demanding her hand in marriage. And so Loki's like, well, why don't you, being as big and strong as you are, dress up as her and pretend to be her, and then, when we get there, like we'll be able to steal the hammer back and whoop their asses for it. And and so Thor uh, dressed up as a woman and went in like wedding gear and stuff like that, and like had Loki there basically holding his hand, acting as like a handmaiden for her and speaking on behalf of Thor, being like, "Oh, no, 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 no. Uh she's she's just so shy, and she's all fluster for the coming wedding." And then finally, like, they see the hammers, the wedding gift, and the Thor's walking down the aisle, and he fucking takes it and he beats the ever loving shit out of him. Like, that's one of that's an old Norse mythos. Like, the hammer was a big thing in it. I forget if it had a name. In the story, it seemed to have had a name, but I read the translated version because, like, reading ye old, old Anglo-Saxonish. Uh, no, I don't have such skill. So, so yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite uh stories. But I'm digressing from the Stanley stuff. Sorry, I just love that story. Mostly because now I can imagine Chris Hemsworth in a wedding dress. Hello.
You went quiet.
Oh, you'd gone quiet, so
No, I left a message in the side chat.
I can't see the side chat. I'm on my phone.
Ah, woman. I wanted to be stealthy about it. I don't want to say, I gotta pee. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. No worries. Everybody, Doc needed to pee real fast, so that's what that was about.
And I was
Um,
peeing real fast. Damn.
yeah.
Oh. I was trying to take a look here. Because that's one thing that I never looked up, because I had always remembered it just being called the Hammer of Thor.
So now you're gonna go and look it up?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. There's a bunch of umlauts going on and some strike throughs.
Yeah, no worries. But oh, I definitely, if I were you, oh, you're going to bed, Mister Rest. Good night, Mister LM. In honor of Stan Lee, do something nice for yourself. Uh, that's what Mister L. You know what? That's one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite people, because he's a firm believer in doing one nice thing. To treat yourself to one nice thing, and he says it from a good place, and fuck it, yeah. In honor of Stan Lee, do something nice. Watch a Marvel movie. Read a comic book. Go buy yourself a comic book. I mean,
Uh oh.
shit, get yourself some shawarma.
Uh oh.
Like,
We got trouble
what?
in the chat.
Uh oh. Oh, it's Tyro and Lo-Fi. May I link them?
But of course. Good morning, Tyrell. Good morning, Lo-Fi. I don't know how much longer we're going to run, but they are invited to come in if they'd like.
Yeah, they're. I like them. I like them a little bit. Yeah, and I sent you both a link. So yeah.
You know, we could always send Ichabod a link too if he's still out there.
Yeah, I'm down to send Ichabod a link.
Or did you already chase him away?
Probably. I didn't say the D word yet, though.
Wait a minute. Well, okay, now you got me curious, Ichabod. You said there's no way I could come on right now without screaming my goddamn head off.
Oh, you didn't watch his video from earlier, did you?
I didn't watch anything, to be honest with you. I was trying to track down some source where I would be able to get a hold of Ginger Lynn, so I wasn't able to get a hold of her, so I started scrambling, and I've got backups for tomorrow in case she does bail, because honestly, I have not talked to her in the touch base, which is, I do a touch base a week before and then a couple days before, and actually I've done two in the, I've sent two emails in the past 2 days because I haven't gotten any response from her in a week. And if I don't hear anything by noon, you guys will see the interview changing. You know.
Heyo.
Howdy.
Hi.
Waiting for my wife to join us.
I am working on that as we speak.
Did you send one to Ken? Oh, there we go.
Because that.
I was just on Weaponized Nerd Rage at a tribute to Stanley earlier. Lo-Fi and I were on. Good Hunt was there too for a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Stanley was like a major part of my childhood. I imagine the same is true for you, Doc.
Well, like I said, when you had a kid who couldn't go out and play and who couldn't actually even talk to other kids, because that's how bad my stutter was. Look at Andy Worski and times that by about 20, and you got how bad my stutter was.
You stutter?
Oh, I took 4 years of intensive speech therapy to get over it.
Wow. Now, what's interesting is the other stream, we basically, we're talking about Spider-Man for like the last hour or so, just because Spider-Man and Stan Lee were just so iconic, those two. Now, what do you guys think? What are your favorite Stan Lee creations?
Doc was mentioning earlier that his favorite. Well, Doc.
Dude, I have Fantastic Four tattooed on the side of my leg.
Wow. Okay. So, and I will agree. Doctor Doom is my favorite Marvel villain. So
Yes,
I'm right there with you.
Oh,
I think
100%.
he's one of the best, because his motivations, like he's not evil because of what he wants to accomplish. He's evil because of the methods that he uses to accomplish his goals.
Well,
He actually wants to save the world. He wants to make the world a better place. And in the multiple continuities where he's achieved his goal, he actually does make the world a pretty great place. It's just his means of getting there are usually, murder and, tyrannical rule and so on, which is like, oh, well, that's not so great.
He's the villain that the Panther God of Wakanda said is the only way for the future to be any good if he takes over.
well, and here's the thing about how Stan Lee wrote his villains. He wrote his villains like they were heroes because of the fact that they had a goal, they were single-minded in that goal. Unfortunately, the methods that they used were villainous. So his villains thought that they were heroes.
Yeah, the really good ones. I mean, he did also have his villains who were like, I'm going to make money, I'm going to get rich. Those sorts.
He did have the gangster villains, and he did have some of the villains that were just villains cause villainy. But his best villains, they do bad to do good.
Yeah, Red Skull is another great example. Red Skull does not think that he is a bad guy. Like, in Red Skull's mind, he is fighting for, the victory of the Third Reich. He's fighting for his country, for his cause.
Well,
he's an ideologue who wants to, conquer because he thinks that he is right.
well, Red Skull was Simon and Kirby back in the 40s, like the Yellow Claw, but they really didn't do much with him. They were just trying to find jingoistic villains. So yeah, he got a better treatment once Stan Lee got a hold of him.
Wait, Simon and Kirby did? I thought Red Skull was after Stan Lee was brought on to Captain America.
No, Skull was back in Timely.
Yeah, well, Stan Lee started writing with Captain America #3.
Wait a minute, let me see here.
No, he is from Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. He's before Stan Lee.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, he was in Captain America Comics #7, and it was in 1941. And technically, I think Stan Lee was still in the army at that point.
Yeah, he went back in there, yeah. Because he's Stan Lee's first writing gig was Captain America #3, but I think then he joined up, so that took him out, yeah. Oh, well, it's funny, too. We were talking about how Stan Lee's official title in the Army was playwright. He was in charge of writing propaganda for the Army.
Oh, yeah.
There were only 8 other people with that title, among them being Frank Capra, who did, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and It's a Wonderful Life, as well as, Theodore Geisel,
Yep,
a.k.a.
Dr. Seuss. Yep.
And Adams Family writer.
Oh, yeah, Charles Adams, yeah. So he was right up there with 3 other big names in good company.
Oh, yeah, they had there was an eclectic mix of people that and they picked the right ones. I mean, just Capra from his filmmaking, he would be the perfect propagandist.
I think we should get back.
Lenny Riefenstahl didn't stand a chance.
Let's get playwrights back in so we can create some more great comic book people.
Yes,
Clearly.
Trump should totally have playwright as a status in the Space Force to create like space propaganda. I would
that you rain from space onto Earth.
I'd be okay with that.
Samaj.
Hey.
Hi, Samaj.
Hey, Samaj.
Hey, what's going on?
Well, we're talking about Stan Lee.
Wait a minute. Is Samaj in the chat?
That would be yes. That would be
I didn't see him.
I sneak in there. I'm a sneaky little ninja.
He's a sneaky monkey.
I've been known to be the guy responsible for surprise.
He's like you're a bonobo. If there's a hole, you put something in it. You sneak into it. It's like
indeed.
Well, Samaj, you're definitely welcome to the stream. Good morning.
Well, you're not wrong about that. It's definitely morning. I was about to head to bed. It's like 1:30 in the morning for me.
So, would you say that you are more influenced by the writers or by the artists? Being an artist yourself.
It's a little hard to say. It's not a combination of the two, because definitely the writers were the ones that came up with a lot of the ideas, or sometimes the artists. It's a back and forth kind of thing. A lot of things with comic books, it's so rarely a one man show. They're almost always a collaboration.
Yeah.
With people. So, I could definitely say a lot of the art influences me. I follow more artists than I do writers nowadays, and I that's sort of a sad thing, because a lot of times we follow a lot of the artists because they're not, as far as we can tell, they're not really influenced by politics and stuff of the like. Comics right now is in a very weird state.
Oh yeah, to put it mildly.
Well, Can we use the word upheaval?
Sure, I got no problem with the word.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Oh God, I have to do some work now. Fuck.
Oh.
What, you just come on, drop some knowledge bombs, and leave? Is that how we are?
I wish I could stay, but I have to call my caseworker because my government fucked me.
Yeah, not in the fun, sexy way like I was.
No, it's the bad way. Of course, I just get home from Texas and I just get wrecked with stress and bad things instantly because fuck me, right?
Well,
Sorry, Lou.
And then Stanley dies and it's like, yay, let's add to it.
Mm.
Well, I guess there's always a place waiting for you in Texas, though. So you can take solace in that.
Mhm.
I am. It's helping a lot, but I need money to get there. That's an issue.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, I think the biggest tragedy though here for 2018 comics wise is in June we lost Steve Ditko, and now we're losing Stan Lee. So I mean we lost Jack Kirby a while ago, but the big three of comics, Kirby, Ditko, and Stan Lee, are now gone. And we lost both of them here in this last same year. So
Okay, goodbye, guys. Have fun.
all right,
Thanks for stopping by, Lo-Fi.
Right.
have a good day.
Hmm.
I hope.
I'll try.
Don't forget, overthrowing your government because it sucks is totally an option.
I know, but if I do that, who's gonna pay me money?
I'll ship you weapons. You can just raid their banks. There we go.
Oh yeah, you're from Texas. Perfect. Ship me a gun I can strap to my axe, so I can shoot and scoot.
There we go.
An axe gun. One good
Yes.
swing, and they'll also get shot in the head.
Perfect. Exactly. So that's double tapping instantly. It's perfect.
Oh my God.
And good morning, Lord Byron. Good morning, Numbskull.
Hey, Lord Byron. Hi, Numbskull. So here's a question. Most impactful thing, creation of Stan Lee's for you guys, or
Ooh.
moment, or quote, or anything like that. Just something impactful from Stan Lee.
I'm gonna have to go with The Thing. Ben Grimm was just a genius stroke of a guy who was theoretically the strongest in the Marvel universe at the time, and he always was seen as a monster, and it was one of the few characters where it reflected back on him. People would recoil when they saw him, or shriek, or go running, or call him a freak and throw shit at him. And he was a really good guy, and that got to him after a while. It wasn't the oh, he saved us. It's more like, who's that freak? And I mean, that was real deal Holyfield. I mean, because the way that I was set up as a young kid, I thought I was 100% ugly, and that I was a monster. And I related very well to Ben Grimm. So yeah, he's my favorite. And good morning, Patrice.
Hey, Patrice.
Yeah, OG X-Men kind of expounded on the Outsiders thing. But I don't know. There's just something about how he treated Ben Grimm, and it was just he was every bit feared and rejected. But when it came down to it, he was the guy that people would come to in a pinch.
Well, what about you, Tyro?
Let's see. What was the original question again? Sorry.
Either a character, a quote, something, a Stanley creation that impacted you in some way, positively.
Well, I'll leave out Spider-Man on this one because that one's really obvious. I'll go for one of his secondary creations. Let's see. Oh man, sorry, my mind is blanking now.
It could be that it's just the time of the day.
Yes, that is playing a factor in this. Man.
Well, what about for you, Samaj? While Tyro tries to think.
Fing fang boom.
Okay, why? Why?
Why? I think it's simply because it's such a bizarre character. It's a villain, obviously. One of the, I believe, Iron Man's villains. It was in I actually have the Wikipedia here open.
What was it? Where monsters dwell? Isn't that where Fin Fang Foom first showed up?
Strange Tales.
Oh, okay.
Number, let me just look here. 89. October of 1961.
Yeah, that's when they were still trying to get over from doing monster and cowboy comic books.
Mm. So Fin Fang Foom has had multiple different iterations throughout time, and sort of a mystical creature, a dragon lord. Yeah, he varies, but also I do like my monsters. And Marvel Comics has been pretty good about doing that and humanizing them. But there's something to be said about characters that are either both relatively simple or maybe a little complex, but they always stick to their traits. Fin Fang Foom is a villain, through and through, a monster, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's the simplicity of it all that makes me love him the most. If I had to compare a modern day version of a monster, from not Stan Lee or anything, but what I would think about is the anime that's been, breaking everyone's imaginations, right? Well, not imaginations. They just can't stop talking about is Goblin Slayer, because the main character just kills goblins. That's all he does, and he has a very simple, tragic backstory. And it's nothing but simplicity. You easily get him, easily relate to him. You like them, and that's part of the charm of some of the characters that Stan Lee gets, and that could be why they stand the test of time, because it's a very simple formula. You stick to that, and it works. And when I think about someone like Fin Fang Foom, very simple, but sticks to the point, and I think that's why I love him so much.
So wait, have you ever thought about drawing Fin Fang Foom?
Oh God, I have when I was younger, because he's also fairly fun. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can. I'll see if I can pull up some pictures of the guy. But yeah, I actually did do him when I was younger because he was such a weird looking character. And there were who was it? There was an artist who did a series of really epic looking things, but he was more influenced by kaiju movies. So. Hold on. Let's see. Can I screen share?
Oh, I'm for our no context tweets. I just threw in a picture of Fin Fang Foom chasing Iron Man.
Nice.
Ichabod.
Hey, Smosh.
Hey.
But yeah, I tell you, one of these days when I get the availability and opportunity, I'll definitely look you up to get an avatar.
Sounds good to me. Although you're going to have some time to wait, and we're going to be heading off to Mexico on the 27th.
Well, it's not like I have money, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
You have lots of time to put something aside. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. For character on my end, I lean towards. Let's see. Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery is pretty cool. I'll cross off Spidey and Spidey and Doctor Doom, because they're kind of my top. But Doctor Octopus, I found fascinating, especially some of the directions they went with him, like having him fall in love with Aunt May. That was interesting, and even the modern writers have remembered that too. Like that's something that still exists, where Doc Ock almost married Aunt May. And he really loved her too, and that was something that came up in Dan Slott's run towards the end. He actually had where Doc Ock, who's in a new clone body, actually jumps in and saves her from Norman Osborn, who has become the new Carnage, and he risks his own life to save Aunt May, and Spidey's like, wow, that's really awesome, dude. I know you're my villain, but I forgive you for everything. Like, go out, be a hero now. Do your thing. So that, and the Spider-Man 2 version where they kind of mix Doc Ock and Lizard together a little bit. I really like Spider-Man 2. That version of Doc Ock to me is one of the best. Both the acting and the writing there, because you really sympathize. They give you time to connect to him. So when he falls, you're like, oh, this is so tragic. You feel sorry for the villain. I wish Spider-Man 3, I wish Spider-Man 3 had just been the Sandman, because I think Raimi's take on Sandman and Flint Marko would have been fascinating to watch. We had a little taste of it,
Well,
but I think more in-depth exploration of that, like what makes a criminal a criminal,
yeah, but
would have been really would have really fleshed out his character to a fascinating degree.
well, but Raimi got butt fucked by the studio because they insisted that he have Venom, and they wanted him to remove the Sandman storyline. And
Yeah, which it's
and
like the opposite of what you should do.
yeah, well, Raimi picked his battles, and he said, "Okay, if you want Venom, you can have Venom, but I'm going to have Sandman."
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what ended the relationship between him and Fox.
Yeah, well, Sony.
Or Sony, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And of course, now we see what Sony does when they actually like, oh, we could do a Venom movie now. It's like, oh God, no, Yeah, Lo-Fi and I both can attest to how horrible Venom is. Oh God,
It's so good.
it's so terrible.
Venom was an experiment.
It was barely a movie.
And I don't think the experiment was a success. Let's just put
No.
it that way.
Sorry, I was phasing in and out there. Were you talking about Venom, like from Spider-Man 3, or are you talking about the new Venom movie that came out?
Both.
Both of
suck.
them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, the Spider-Man 3 one, obviously, that was people were just not seeing eye to eye, and the movie suffered as a result of that. Obviously, I did want to say Spider-Man 2, I still think is the best superhero movie of all time.
Ooh, hold on.
Which one?
I will. Spider-Man 2 is in my top 3, but I would put the first Superman above it, and I would put the Dark Knight above it.
Okay. I will say Spider-Man movies, no doubt. Number 2 is the best one.
Yes.
But that doesn't even require any debate. He was firing on all cylinders because Sony left him alone. They said, "Okay, you made money for us on the first film. Go do what you're going to do for the second one."
Yeah.
Best movie? Well, I was alive when this movie was in the theaters, and I have to make number 1 Superman, because I've said this ad nauseum. When I walked out of the theater, I believed a man could fly.
Mm-hmm.
It was just mind blowing, and really, I liked Dark Knight. I liked Batman Begins better. I mean, the only thing that Dark Knight had above it was the fact of Heath Ledger's performance. But
I just felt the Dark Knight, the Batman Begins was good. Don't get me wrong. I just felt the Dark Knight had a better clash of ideals to it, where you had the three symbols. You had the symbol of law, you had the symbol of chaos, and you had Batman, who towed the line in between. Towed the line in between, and that clash generated a very good ideology. So even though like the Joker has his fun, he still loses the argument, and that's what makes the movie good.
by the way,
I'm a sucker for clash of ideals. Sorry.
By the way, good morning, Bridge.
Hey, Bridge.
Well, then, what say ye, Coon of Doom? Who is your favorite character created by Stan Lee?
I'm not really a comics person.
What about from the movies?
That falls under the same line. I didn't watch a whole lot of them, but it's Stan Lee wise. Stan Lee was my favorite character.
Fair enough.
Did-
Oh, I was gonna say, like, out of the movies that you did watch, which character did you like the most? You know.
I continue my previous answer, Stan Lee. Like even just as the cameos, he was the funniest motherfucker in them.
Okay.
All right, so Ichabod's favorite character is the one above all. Gotcha.
I think.
Okay, this
there
is fucking weird, guys. Hold on for just a second. This is fucking weird. I can't wrench anybody in my chat.
That's really fucking weird.
Wait a minute.
That's
Let me
weird.
try this. All right, you motherfuckers. There we go. There you go, failure. Have a wrench.
Hey, failure.
I'll throw you a
So,
link too,
did-
if and you want one, and I'll throw one to Loki here because I wasn't able to. It signed me out for some reason.
Could not tell you why I was so pissed off earlier.
No,
I explained to him he needed to watch your video.
No,
So-
I had my head buried. I'm telling you.
A bunch of people started going after Stan.
Who?
Oh, just a shit ton of, real fucking shit heels. Saying he was a sexist, racist, homophobic woman abuser. You
No,
remember
those
that?
parts,
You remember
yeah.
that fucking cunt bag piece of shit nurse that accused him of sexually harassing her?
Yeah.
And then there was this huge fucking legal battle, and she fucking lost because she had no goddamn evidence or any fucking real comprehension on what the concept of sexual harassment is, or any fucking base level of common decency, like the fucking failure of a human being she is. Yeah, that's what they're using. That's what they're fucking using as this big fucking reveal on Stan Lee's death. It's this grouping of people who should have been a blowjob. Shitting on a man whose entire life was spent lifting everybody else up, and because he's dead now and can't defend himself, because I guarantee you, even though he was a 95-year-old damn near crippled man, they were scared of him. But now they're taking the opportunity, because he just died, to pull out all these accusations directly from their anus. Just kind of mold that shit around nice and well, and then smear it all over their faces, so even from a distance, that is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And they're just flinging it all over every fucking version of social media, calling Stan Lee this big piece of shit because he was a sexist, racist hump. Now, the motherfucker would sit down with you no matter what you were, no matter what labels you attached to yourself, no matter what fucking crap you wanted to do. He would sit down with a goddamn every single member of RuPaul's Drag Race and have a conversation with him. He wouldn't give a shit. He'd fucking compliment that dude on his goddamn makeup.
Exactly. The reason they're doing though is because Stan Lee is highly revered by the white male geek population, and everyone knows if white male geeks like it, it must be bad. Of course, they're ignoring the fact that a whole lot of non-white, non-male geeks also like Stan Lee, so they're just gonna piss off everybody.
Well, and keep in mind, they tried to run that same shit, that same line of bullshit when Fred Rogers died. And Fred Rogers is pretty much fucking spotless. I mean, Mr. Rogers was Mr. Rogers. There wasn't any kiddie porn dungeons in his basement. He wasn't running drugs, and he didn't have some, wild Bob Crane alternate sex life. But people tried to drum up shit and say this and this happened, and I tell you what, the detractors, when they started doing that shit, the people who were around him just rose up like Fin Fang Foom and just started squashing people left and right. They did not put up with it. And I got a feeling that if there's any industry person that's saying this shit, that they will be ostracized. They will be bounced out of the community without a second thought.
No, here is the genuine what I would fucking do in this situation. Dear God, never give me control of something like Marvel, because I will fucking hurt people. What you do is you say, look, all of this stuff has come out about Stan Lee. So what we're going to do is we're going to suspend every Marvel IP across all platforms, video games, movies, TV, all of it. We're going to suspend it pending a 4-year investigation. Because of these people, show all their goddamn Twitter handles. Fuck them. At this point, I am at the fuck them point. Fuck them. Don't do their goddamn real names, any shit like that, unless they put their real name as their fucking Twitter handle. Just show the Twitter handles of every last one sitting there calling this man, who was one of the nicest old motherfuckers you would ever meet in your goddamn life. Just show all them fucking Twitter handles at fucking whatever his name is, and then the comment, do a goddamn cameo of it at the end of a fucking award show or some shit like they do with the in memorandum thing. Just do that. These are the pieces of shit that have cost you all of it. No books, no fucking movies, no fucking games, no fucking TV shows. You have fucked the pooch on this one. We're tired of everybody wanting to come out after the fact, but they don't have the balls to say it to the man's face while he was alive. He was on this planet, what, 95 fucking years? 95 fucking years they had goddamn time to say something about this, but now that he's dead, can't defend himself, now once they come up with it, eat a fucking dick.
Yeah, I agree. The the problem is, though, some cases here, they're just trying to be edgelords. You know, that's the new in thing is, oh, hey, let's build a name for myself by doing this outrageous thing. And the other problem, too, is even in places like, not Marvel Cinema, but Marvel Comics, you'll get people there who are sympathetic to that. Because there are writers and artists at Marvel Comics right now who do not respect Stan Lee or any of that old school. They see that entire old generation comics as, you know, passe or as racist, sexist, bigoted, and stuff like that. So they're not going to protest that at all because that's actually what they think. They can't express it though because the fan revolt would be too bad. But they can't go that far. But they are sympathetic to it, and we know it.
Like, it's a hard line concept of not wanting to say, like, I would take these people to the top of a building and fucking shoryuken them off into a goddamn pit of spikes, Mortal Kombat style, and saying, I understand where y'all are coming from. Times have changed over the years, what have you, but say it to the man's face.
Helicopter rides.
You had fucking time to say it to the man's face. It's not like you were gonna sit here and be a fucking asshole about it. And as he got older, he changed with the times. Yeah, maybe it was a little crazy to do some of the shit that he would do in his comics years ago. But did it get better because he evolved with the times? Yeah, I'm sick and tired of every fucking person on the goddamn planet wanting to be held up as these fucking horrible monsters because of something they said when they were, fucking 16. It's everywhere. Everywhere. I see this stupid, asinine fucking... I was fucking younger. Times were entirely different, but that just was completely discounted because today, something I said when I was a 5-year-old and my dad was being edgy and taught me the word fuck, I'm now a fucking social pariah the rest of my goddamn life. No, fuck you. Fuck you. Opinions change over time, and I get it. Fucking what? A few hundred years ago, slavery was there and it was bad. 100 years after that, Jim Crow was there and it was bad. Today, we don't have these things. There are more important fights for you to fucking have. And you shitting and dancing on one of the nicest motherfuckers goddamn graves you ever had, a master of his fucking craft. I'm not even a comic books fan. And I know the man was a master of his fucking craft. The fact that me on the outside even knows about the motherfucker lets you know that he was a master of what he did. He made stories, and by God, yes, the stories had to change over time to match the fucking perceptions of the world. Jesus!
So, Anti here in the chat was saying, and by the way, hi, Anti.
Good morning, Anti.
I was just as angry with the people who, as soon as he died, wanted to hail him as his massive SJW ally who fought hard against Comic King.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because
he was fighting for his life. He didn't have anything to do with Comicsgate because he was fighting for his life at that point.
I would Stan Lee, while a leftist, I mean, he was a liberal. I mean, that's something him and Ditko disagreed on. Like, Ditko was a libertarian / conservative. He was an Ayn Rand objectivist, which was one reason I like Steve Ditko so much. Is he is one of the few comic masters who was also a conservative, and his work reflected it, and he put it in there. Like, when you look at his version of The Question, is my favorite version of The Question.
You mean Mr. A?
Yeah, Mr. A as well. But no, I mean, I'm talking about like the Charleston comics. The Question that he wrote was
well, yeah, but Mr. A was basically The Question without a filter.
Yeah, exactly. And I still need to read that one. I have not gotten my hands on Mr. A comics. I need to.
Oh, they're interesting. They're very interesting.
I imagine, yeah. But he, while a leftist, Stan Lee understood the basics that writing came first. This is something. There's a video floating around of him with Tom McFarlane and Rob Liefeld. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like a drawing. It's like a drawing collaboration with him, Liefeld, and McFarlane. It's in the '90s, and during the video, Stanley is taking pot shots at both of them. For example, he's telling Rob Liefeld, "Hey, let's tighten up those feet," for example. And then they're designing this character called Overkill, and so McFarlane's like, "Oh, he's got cannons for fingers and shoulder pads and blah blah." He's very '90s, But Stan Lee asks a very interesting question. He says, "Well, who is he? Oh, he's Overkill. But okay, but who is he when he takes off this suit? Who's the person underneath of it?" And that's something in the '90s we saw that forgotten, where comics was all about just shoulder pads and pouches and big guns and stuff. That's why Image Comics never produced, very rarely produced anyone notable other than Spawn, because Spawn had a character to him. That was one notable exception with the Image roster back then. But most of the others, like Youngblood and stuff, were just generic and bland. They were terrible. But that continues to today, where now they are obsessed with the social message behind it, but they have forgotten the character. America Chavez was just a shallow, like, look, she's a Hispanic lesbian. Look, Hispanic lesbian. Hey, did I mention that she's a Hispanic lesbian? Oh, yeah. That was it. That was all there was to her, other than her also being a raging jerk and a douchebag to her own grandmother. It was really awful.
Well,
but that was all there was to the character. They forgot Stan Lee's message or lessons from the 50s and 60s, which was there needs to be a person behind it. Yes, you can have, the X-Men were a leftist tale about, opposing bigotry, opposing hate, about, being pro-civil rights and being against the Holocaust and so on. A Holocaust metaphor as well as a civil rights metaphor. Sure. But he did it with a focus on the characters. He didn't just make it about that. It was you cared about these characters because they were people caught in that time, in that conflict.
Well,
and that's something that the modern writers have forgotten.
Well, and think about this. When they're talking about him being, racist, sexist, OG Phantom brought up a great point. Only thing you need to do if you're talking about exclusionary things, X-Men was his parallel to minorities. But let's go back even farther. Let's go back to Fantastic Four number 52, I think, with the Black Panther. If you haven't read that story, it's not just, oh, this guy's a black superhero. They legitimately, they go to Wakanda, and he is nobility then, and, it goes through his origin story and everything, but he is treated like a man. It's not like, oh, hey, we got this new black character. I mean, even Stan Lee and Jack Kirby together said, there really aren't any black characters in the comic books. Let's go ahead and start adding some. So they added one who's incredibly noble. And I dare anybody, I challenge any of these Stan Lee detractors to go back and read 52 and tell me that he's a racist.
That's the problem. They don't give a shit. They're just hurling shit.
Yep.
That's the most irritating part of all of it, because none of them ever given a half of a fuck to actually look into the man. All they're doing is slinging various piles of shit to see what sticks, and when none of it does, they'll all pipe down and go back to their little fucking rat holes. But until then, we have to listen to them shit talk one of the few reasons that there was a reason to have faith left in fucking humanity. And that, I think, is the biggest fucking loss of this concept. Stan Lee was an amazing man, a wonderful person. Just from the shit that I've seen of just Stan, the dude was a person you should look up and want to be. But you take a look at these people, and what the fuck are they going to leave behind? What are any of these people going to leave behind? These people that are sitting there going, this person's bad, that person bad, these people's bad. They're fucking living interpretation of that stupid ass NPC meme. These people bad because they old and white. Fuck. It is this irritating and asinine and fucking completely ridiculous concept that just because somebody's old and white, they're a horrible fucking person.
Yeah.
And it's the concept of you will leave nothing behind. Your bloodline should turn to dust because clearly there's nothing good left. Your fucking genetic makeup has made it to the point that it can produce nothing else of value. If you never reproduce, the world will be better for it because the day you die, all of your gravestones should read in the biggest, boldest print fucking imaginable. And nothing of value was lost.
Oh, by
here's
the
the
way,
trick.
good morning, Joshua.
Hey, Joshua.
Hey, so
Wait, real quick. Wait, hold on, Tyro. Samaj, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been letting people say their piece, so I'm not trying to be polite. This isn't the Snatchcast. I have to let people talk.
No, I know, but you know, we would. This isn't Snatchcast, so we would actually like to hear from you too.
No problem. Yeah, there's a couple of theories. I think the world right now is in a very dark state, and especially with people's points of views, like like Orange Man bad, that kind of stuff. One of my theories on that, I've heard a few people they're also echoing this, is that it's probably the fact that people are on the internet so much, and when you're on the internet, a lot of times what you'll end up doing is you'll find people that have similar interests to you. One being comics, it could be all these other things, could be political views for all you know. And in doing so, you only find people who share your own point of view instead of going out and finding a diversity of views. So then the one idea is like, where is that lead? Where's that constant? Let's say it's been dubbed an echo chamber. It pretty much is, but some of them don't think that they live in an echo chamber, but it's hard for them to see it that way. And same way where you think, why do people think that they're so righteous and they're criticizing of people's race and gender and all that other kind of stuff? Well, I mean, if you're in an echo chamber all day and you're hearing nothing but the same points of view, that's very well could be a factor. And I think a lot of people have found themselves in said echo chamber, not really looking for one, just sort of ending up in one, because the internet's full of people that think like you, and you'll eventually find them. That's why you always have to worry about being in an echo chamber.
Well,
So I make sure. Well, I also have to make sure, like in real life, you surround yourself with, I hate the word, but diversity of views.
well,
I have a friend there. Yeah, sorry, go for it.
and Samaj, do you think that it's the case of they've been taught so long that nobody is above reproach that they have to attack people who are considerably above reproach, like Stan Lee and like Fred Rogers?
Yeah, I think that they have. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think that they see that there's like, people are beyond their, let's say, stereotypes, if you want to think of it that way, or how they've been taught to think of people. You're quite literally, they categorize you into certain sets, like you're a Nazi or you're a Republican or something along those lines. They just sort of categorize you as to what is bad, and that's all you are. There is no other it doesn't matter if you could be, let's say, a parent, or a sculptor, or you help the homeless. None of that matters. None of that matters because you fall under these other categorizations that they dub as bad. And I think it's a very limited world thing.
Yeah. I think another also highlights the difference between Stan Lee and how the left used to be versus how the left is now. When Stan Lee was a liberal, identified as a liberal back then, they still believed in creating things. Creation is like, it wasn't enough for him to just condemn what was there. He was also creating things that expressed his views, like X-Men and so on. The left now is just about tearing things down and destruction. And even when they try to create, their creations are very shallow. Again, like America Chavez, or like the new Iceman, or basically most of the Marvel comics today. They're all very shallow and empty creations because the people who make them don't have a thorough understanding of their beliefs. Stan Lee knew what he stood for. He thought about what he stood for. There was reason and thought and logic behind his stance on things. But if you look at the creators today, they are just empty shells compared to him. He was not an NPC. They are. And that's the difference. And that's why I think part of the attack is because they're jealous of him. They are jealous of the talent that he had. And they want to convince themselves that, no, we have progressed beyond Stan Lee. We are superior to what Stan Lee was. Clearly, he is in the past. Therefore, he must be inferior. So we have to say whatever it takes to make him inferior to us, even though they know deep down they don't measure up.
So there was, some of you guys have probably heard of this, is that there was a blog attached to, well, which later became like a petition for some of the more radical fans out there, involving a hairdresser who said that she should get the job of writing for Riri Williams, Ironheart, the new Iron Man, if you will, because she looks just like her. Said, and this petition, which only had maybe a couple hundred people signing it, actually got her the job of doing it, of becoming a writer for.
Wait, she actually got the job? I mean, I heard about it. I didn't hear she actually got the job.
Yep, all those. If you see any pictures of her in this new Ironheart, pink and blue outfit, yep, that's the. I can't remember the name of the woman, but she got in because her hairstyle is just like Riri. And I think
Jesus.
when you look at hiring practices such as these, you know that there's something wrong. And what?
Hold on,
Yeah.
wait. I need to hit up Muffin and tell her to go and apply to write for Ironheart because she'll get the job based on how she looks. Like,
Yeah,
that's...
I mean, based on that, I should apply to write for Hulk because I look like Amadeus Cho or something.
Well, I'm a bit on the pudgy side. I should be writing for the Blob. I
There we
can get that.
Yeah.
But when you look at hiring practices such as that, and also if you look at the cast of writers and creators, they're all of various different skin colors and sexual orientations and stuff the like. And these are the people who are running Marvel Comics. This is incredibly sad because the amount of people who want to be comic creators is higher now than it's ever been. It used to be comic jobs were something that you would look down to because they don't pay that much, and that makes a lot of sense. But the amount of people who want to be writers is very high, and artists and all that kind of stuff. There's literally an army of artists and writers at the doors of Marvel who want to work for them, and they think that they can help and save them. But none of them are going to get the job because they're all white men who are predominantly also all straight.
Yep.
And because of that, they don't get the job. But each and every one of them have had years of experience in writing and have far greater, more phenomenal ideas than anyone currently running the office. That's a hard.
Yeah.
If you're
Well,
hiring
reminds me, they hired one writer who had no writing experience at all, like, in fiction, period. All she had done was, like, I think some studies or something like that. Like, she did like a PhD in urban studies or something. So they gave her the role to write the character just to basically make her a propaganda mouthpiece for her roles. And I forgot who it was. But yeah, they just because at least some of the new writers they brought in have been like young adult fiction writers, which is like, okay, at least they're an author of some kind. They have some background in writing, even if it's not comics. They really love. By the way, young adult fiction is very much taken over by a lot of the Biswell. The Biswell have strongly taken over that. Scholastic is becoming a propaganda outlet for the left, unfortunately, unlike what they used to be. But that's where Marvel's been pulling a lot of talent. But yeah, now they're like doing that crap, or like hiring someone who's their only writing is like a PhD thesis about why America is racist, and that's who gets the jobs now. It's not the people who are actually qualified for it. They're not hiring based on merit, like you're supposed to, like Martin Luther King said to do. Hire on content of character and skill. They're hiring on based on like, oh, you look the part, therefore it's good. You know. It's diversity at the cost of expertise.
Hi, Gio.
Good morning, Gio.
And Lo-Fi, welcome back.
Yes, welcome back, Lo.
Yay,
Alright.
waifu.
Or at least in the chat. Ichabod, you've gotten really quiet. Are you okay?
He had a bit of a rage on the people attacking Stanley. For good reason. They deserve it.
Yeah.
I meant to say that the last year of Stan Lee has probably been the strangest, and it's probably going to spawn legends, if you will, of like told like weird stories. Do you guys remember the fake nurse who went to Stan Lee's house and took blood samples and actually took like a couple bags full of blood?
Oh yeah,
From
yeah,
Stan
sold
Lee?
him.
And yeah, and then they had like I think it was either a partner or a boyfriend or something who forged his signature onto comic books using his blood.
Yeah.
That was weird. That was very weird. And that's not so. Yeah.
Someone forged his signature with blood?
No,
Stan
his
Lee's
own blood.
That okay?
You didn't hear
Wow.
that? It was the strangest story, and that like when I hear about that, it's like
I missed that one.
this is the guy who's brought so much joy into the world. What are we doing in the last years of his life? And then there was the domestic abuse stuff, or not the elderly abuse with his daughter. That was also another sad thing. I think the judge ruled in her favor or something. It wasn't abuse or something like that.
Yeah, because it was stories that his caretaker was making up, so he had the ability to separate Stan from his support system, his family, so he could take greater advantage of him.
Yeah, god damn it, man. Like, this is the weirdest thing, the weirdest stories to hear out there, and it's the saddest ones too. And oh god, this is not the way his last year should have been.
Yeah.
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 But I guess there is a certain level of I don't want to say he dislikes the fans. I'm sure he loves the fans, but like when you get to a certain age, you tend to question like, why are you people really here?
Fuck.
Hey, Lo-Fi, how's it going?
Oh, it works now. Okay, thank God. That was-
Well,
We hear you.
yeah, that's good. I was trying to make it work. I was trying to get everything.
well,
Sorry for interrupting.
It's
Oh,
okay.
and Orange is back too. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I needed a minute to
Can you guys hear this?
process.
I'm back, baby.
Ow.
Yeah, yes, I heard that, and it's
Perfect,
okay.
thank
Are you doing better, Ichabod?
Here's the thing, and this is what I consider the biggest pain in the ass about this. It's the lack. How to fucking word this? Ugh. Alright. You ever walked up to somebody you really don't fucking like? Just
I killed
outright don't like them. And you still understand that 1% of them that you can fucking be okay with. The part that they are another human being. And you can have that love for somebody. Like, you are a good person somewhere in there. Everybody's got that. Everybody's got that little shred of, I love you, you are a fellow human being. You are a good fucking person somehow, some way. I don't care if you're a goddamn murdering psychopath. You've got something in you that's worth of value. And people will outright ignore that fact. It's like, what the fuck is that? The golden rule. Do unto others. That shit. Like, I look at this like how much people have shit on Stan Lee, and I want to. I know they're not bad people. Like deep down, they're not bad people. They can't be. They can't be that fucking blind or stupid or that fucking idiotic as to really honestly believe that Stan Lee was some kind of piece of shit. You spend 5 minutes listening to the man. You can tell he ain't got a fucking shred of hate in his body. He ain't got a shred of anger. The man was a good man. One of the nicest motherfuckers you will ever meet in your goddamn life.
Oh yeah.
There's no fucking way somebody is that stupid
I
or fucking ill-informed or just ridiculous that they actually believe that man has something wrong with him. That he's done anything but benefit every life he ever was near. And I look at this and it's just like, you fucking scum. It's scum shit. And I want to just take one of these motherfuckers and shake them till they can't fucking understand life and go, look, I know you're not this dumb. Nobody can be this dumb. It's like walking up to fucking Gandhi and being like, you never did anything in your life. It's just fucking not even on the basis of fucking reality.
if like people are stupid though. If people can think that Titanic
But they
was a
can't be
fictional event,
that
yes,
fucking
they
stupid.
Can. Yes, they can.
Then
Never
fucking
underestimate-
purge them. Kill them all. Hang them from fucking trees.
I
If
don't-
somebody is actually that fucking stupid, they are nothing but a negative to human civilization. They're only going to kill themselves or
I
kill
don't
us.
disagree,
It is
but
the
that's-
stupidest fucking concept.
There's no limit to human stupidity. People
Then
will always
fucking
find a way to be
deal
dumb.
with it. This is the sad fucking truth of the matter. If you continue to let people that fucking stupid exist, we will die out as a species. That's why Darwinism fucking exists.
No, we have transcended
people
Darwinism though.
die
Because of
because-
our technology and lifestyle, people don't need to be smart
Right.
anymore to survive. It's fucking disgusting. I agree.
It's like the fucking kid and sitting in the goddamn corner eating fucking paste. He's not gonna be president of the United fucking States in the future. He's gonna end up drinking bleach out of a fucking stupid challenge and die from it.
Hey, to be fair, we did have Bush. We had President Bush, so I think that disproves that argument right there.
Wasn't stupid. He was bad. There's a difference. The man got.
I know,
to
I'm
be president.
joking. That was a joke. Anyway.
No, I understand, but he wasn't a stupid man. That's my point. These fucking swaths of people that are so fucking worthless. If people are actually so stupid as they could not have seen who Stan Lee was as a human being, then they don't need to be continuing the fucking gene pool.
It's
So
not
what-
as much the point that people are just that stupid. It's that people are gullible and don't feel we have gotten to a point where no one feels like we need to like research things anymore. It's just you hear one thing, that's it, that's the truth. Then people
See,
don't.
Lofa, here's the problem with the statement you're telling me right now. If that
That's
is the
because
case,
people are
I need to
stupid.
go down to the pawn shop, get a shotgun, and eat a fucking round. Because I have done
But-
nothing in my life. And that is a dead serious fucking statement. That's not a joke. If what
But
you're
that-
saying is 100% fucking true, I need to just die because there is nothing in this fucking world left worth living for. We are dead as a species.
But we don't want you to die. But that is true.
That's
That is
not the fucking point.
no one.
Is
Many
what
people
the
don't
fuck
feel
are
the
we
need
doing?
to do research anymore. They will listen to one side and take it, and that's the part that we have transcended into a group of people. And it's never been easier to Google things. It's such a weird thing. Everyone can Google and do research on the fly, but no one wants to. We have gotten to a point where we have all the technology in our hand, but everyone just picks the first thing they see and say, that's it.
Well, even before the invention of the internet, libraries existed and books existed. People can
Yes.
go out and find the information fairly easily. But
Yes.
but the part of the problem tends to be is that a lot of people don't really want to put in the work.
Yeah, but that's my point. Is like it's never been easier than it is right now. Before we have always been able to do the research in modern time, definitely libraries and all such. And every year we progress, it gets easier and easier for everyone to fucking find the research. But people don't wanna. People don't wanna because fuck
Like,
that. That's,
Here's the real problem with it, and I'm again working through random bouts of anger here. Here's the real problem with it. You take any one of these motherfuckers who are gonna say something like this, who are gonna shit on somebody who has just died. You set them in front of somebody else who has the opposite opinion, and I guarantee you, by the end of that conversation, provided neither of them walk away, they're gonna come back with an understanding. Because I've personally done it. Like I used to be this like weird rabid anti-feminist fuck ass, but then I sat down, had a goddamn conversation with goddamn what the fuck was her name? God damn it, ranting feminist. Sat down, had a conversation with her. She made points, actual fucking points, and made me understand that feminism isn't the problem. It's these crazy misandrous cunts. And I get to this point where I'm understanding that our current concept of social justice is so fucking polluted as even just a fucking twinkle in its daddy's eye that it has to be incredibly twisted. We have to spin that shit around, because if we don't, then we are going to die off as a species. One day we're going to just elect somebody who's trolling to the goddamn presidency far worse than Trump is, and he's just going to press the fucking button to watch the world burn. And everybody's going to want to do it because he's funny. That's how fucking Trump got elected. It was just fucking A, Clinton was shit, and B, it was funny.
Yeah. Now, I think we're going a little off topic here, though, because the main purpose of the stream is to tribute Stan Lee. Though I do think you're... Now, I mean, how widespread do you see Stan Lee being bashed here? Because everything I've seen so far has been usually paying tribute. I've seen a couple of the bad articles. Most of the articles I've read have been pretty good. Like Al Jazeera, I know, is one of the best ones.
Just scrolling down, reading all of them.
Oh, sorry.
Fucking, I am furious about it because it's just looking at. It's like you're fucking like your dad or your grandpa or somebody else like that dies. Somebody who you knew for a fact didn't have any hate in their goddamn heart, and everybody's all of a sudden shitting on them. I don't know, man.
I'm just
fucking ridiculous.
I'm just of the opinion that there are people that have, for lack of a better term, stains on their soul, so they don't feel like they're good people, or they essentially might not be good people, so they don't have the capacity to believe that there can be people out there without stains on their souls who do good. And that's why they have to bash him.
I think there's something to be said about that, because there's a lot of people out there right now who, if I had to say a demographic wise, it's probably mostly men there, who don't really hear words of encouragement and feel like there's anything good, and then they see the world in a very cynical way and think very, very poorly on pretty much everyone around them, which is a terrible way to view your life and the people around you, because they're not you.
And that's the kicker, Samaj. That's me. That was fucking me. I grew up without any goddamn kind of encouragement. When I was a little fucking bastard, I got nothing. Nobody ever told me I was doing a good job. I just had to do what I did, keep my fucking nose down, and exist. That was my life. And that's why this is so fucking infuriating to me. People like, you fucking tuned into a goddamn movie. Your dad's watching for 5 minutes. You see Stan Lee. He comes in there and he says something that makes you go, goddamn, maybe there's some fucking good in this world. Goddamn, maybe, just maybe, people aren't the absolute shit I have been led to believe. And then, fucking, I'm proved wrong again. People are shit. And I swear to God, if it weren't for, like, and this is probably the most fucking depressing thing I've ever said in my life, if it weren't for fucking internet people that I've met, people like Samaj, like fucking Doc, Kadunt to a lesser degree because she won't stop calling me daddy.
I have not called you that once this entire stream. God fucking damn it. Like, honestly, you should thank me for bringing Muffin to you to call you that, okay?
Thank you. But my point being is, this is the world that I have found. People that actually give a shit, who actually fucking care about the world. And as much as we may all go off on these angry rants on occasion, I know Doc doesn't because he's Doc, but like as much as we might get furious, we're coming from a good place. We just want the fucking world to look better and brighter and good. But we can't anymore because every time we try, we get shit on, be it by YouTube, by Twitter, by fucking friends or family, by some asshole who wants to dox a bunch of people. Stan Lee was the representation of good in this fucking world, and people wanted to shit on him. No, rest in peace, Stan Lee. Fuck off if you got some goddamn opinion of him. If you're gonna post it online, at least, please, for the love of God, research it first. Spend 5 fucking minutes. Because like Will said, it's fucking Google. Take 2 minutes on it.
People don't want to do that because they're lazy cunts.
Yeah.
Do
well,
good.
I mean, look how easily they all got on board the Kavanaugh thing. And I mean, that's all of the accusations against Kavanaugh have since been thoroughly disproven as lies. But everyone was on board saying, yeah, okay, one person says it, it must be true. Wait, what? So it's
I-
it's really just the same cultural phenomenon as well.
I have a fun question for everyone. Like, I thought maybe we could bring some joy back, first of all.
Yeah,
instead of
let's cheer this
instead
up.
instead of talking about how fucking retarded people are for not wanting to pull their phone out the pocket and Google things. But so, is there any like specific comic book character, like preferably Stan Lee, or but if not, that's fine. That you would love to see like on the big screen that
Fame
has not been
Fang
shown yet, maybe, or hasn't been shown in a long time.
I just want them to finally do a Fantastic Four movie right.
I
Yes,
I
please.
foresee that they are going to be doing that, especially after all this, because Fantastic Four saved the comics back in the day. They could probably save the movies, hopefully, because the way that this Captain Marvel movie's shaping up, I think we're gonna have a rough summer ahead of us.
Oh no, I forgot all about it so much. Now I'm sad.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we don't have to suffer Captain Marvel too much. I mean, I think like what 2 months after it comes out, we get Avengers 4, and Avengers 4 should be pretty great.
But she's in that. Maybe she'll take. Oh no.
Well, yeah, but remember, Captain Marvel will be in number 4, but the Rousseau brothers are directing it, so I think even they
Oh,
can
yeah,
probably
that's
make
true.
Brie
That's
Larson
true.
good.
That's true. Oh, then yeah. And she won't be like. There will be other people too, like take our mind off.
She'll die. Thanos will kill someone. It's gonna be her.
Oh, thank God. I'm already
No.
happy. Just kill Brie Larson, not even Marvel. Just
I-
Brie Larson.
You know what's weird? Brie Larson. You see pictures of her. She looks like she's in like her 30s, maybe her 40s. The bitch is only like late 20s.
It's because she's a salty cunt. She always has the like demeanor of someone going, I don't want to be here. Patriarchy. That's how she looks.
Well, holding that much hate can age anyone.
Yes. She didn't even want to do the movie thing. She just wanted to like show the nerds that women can do superheroes too, because that's apparently something we've all been saying. No, you can't. Ah, women.
Yeah, like there are no good female superheroes. Wonder Woman.
That movie sucks.
Yeah, but
What,
the
you like Wonder
character
Woman?
is
No, I
the
did
character
not.
is
I thought
awesome.
the pacing was fucking horrid. I love Chris Pine in it. He's amazing.
Yeah, he did do a fairly good job.
But I didn't like how the ending contradicts the entire morale up to that. Like how his entire point of his sacrifice is like sometimes people are just bad, and then she kills Ares and is like, no, they were under curse. No, forget what he just died. That's okay. Fuck.
Hmm.
That part is stupid. Anyways, back to my question instead, because we got salty again.
We tend to get salty. You know what? I'd love to see a proper Ash.
Big Bang Boom.
Well, that and
Yeah.
like other characters like the
God, I want
Juggernaut.
to say Fin Fan Boom.
It sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Just
Fin
wanna
Fang
say it.
Boom. I want to see Fin Fang Boom.
I want to see him in movies. He should be in the next Iron Man movie after
Yeah.
after they recast Robert Downey Jr.
Then they can do the crossover where he fights Ninja Turtles as well.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd love to see that.
By the way,
Marvel can save the Ninja Turtles too.
did any of you ever read Stan Lee's Just Imagine series?
No, I wanted to though.
I honestly, I mean, this was like what, almost 2 decades ago. But I would have loved to have seen what his take would have been in the 80s. But writing in the 2000s, he was kind of a little bit weak on Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, and I think he did a book for almost everybody in the JLA.
He also wrote a Romeo and Juliet story set in a sci-fi timeline. I've never been able to find a copy of that book. It was when when he went away from Marvel and he started doing his own stuff with different publishers. Romeo and Juliet. He presented as a manga I remember what it was. And he did another book on firefighters. So
Well,
yeah, he
not
yeah,
like-
he did a bunch of stuff.
yeah, I mean, it's not like the boy couldn't write. Although I still can't forgive him for Stripperella.
Well, you can't. Well, he tried something new. You can say that at least.
Yeah,
Wait, you didn't like Stripperella?
Stripperella was fucking horrible, dude.
It was hilarious. It was a parody.
But it was a bad parody.
Okay, I'll give you that. But you do know the whole reason he did Stripperella is because he was a fan of Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
So he did it strictly because he wanted to meet Pamela Anderson. So he did the project, and it's like, hey, cast her. Then he got to meet her, and by all accounts, like he felt her ass or something. He was a pervy old man. So
But in a good non-Cosby way.
yeah, basically. Yeah. No, he did it with consent, of course, because she was all like, "Oh, yeah, you're Stanley. Yeah, you can touch me." And Robot Chicken even made the skit about that, where it's like, "I just want to put my face between those jubblies and go." Rrr. It's like, he's doing it again.
Well, I guess that's one way to get your creative juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Doc, did you ever used to watch any of my old shit, or did you just kind of come in later on when I was using just for example the avatar I'm using now? Did you ever see any of my older shit?
I have to say no, because I was introduced to you from live streaming.
Fair enough. I used to have a character that I do on my show called Tangerine. And this entire thing reminds me of one of the quotes that it was from a video that actually was kind of controversial at the time because, it was, hey, everybody, why can't y'all motherfuckers be nice kind of thing. Anyway, the point is the quote was, you bad. Quit being bad. Stop being bad. And that's the best concept I can actually think of.
Oh,
Everybody just needs to quit being bait.
by the way, good morning, everyday man.
Hi,
Good
everyday
morning,
man.
every day, man. I'm gonna chill my rage for a minute. Just be like, yeah, no. Rest in peace, Stan, because you were a good dude.
Well, and,
Can't nobody ever take that from you.
and this whole thing
Well,
follows along one of my two life mantras, which is people will always be tempted to wipe their feet on anything with welcome written on it.
You're not wrong.
Stan Lee story.
He was a good dude, man. He was.
Look it up.
Just sorry, Kadan. I'm more talkative than I should be. I realize this. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Hey,
It's just
it's okay. Look, go. You don't know anything about comic books, and that's fine. But I'm still tagging you in my no context tweet.
I don't doubt it.
It's okay. I'm through my tag, my no context tweet. For those of you who actually see it, that is who I would love to see in a Marvel movie. I want to see on the fucking big screen.
Who?
Did you see the no context tweet?
No context tweet? Hold on.
Yes. I tagged you. I tagged everybody that's in our hangout right now in the no context tweet because we were on that question and I figured I'd answer it in Ichabod.
And when it comes down to it, I'm remiss to say it because, he's right fucking here. But this is why I'm such a fucking stickler about good artists.
Oh,
Like, I fucking suck Samaj's dick all the goddamn time on every social media anytime he makes anything. Because the man is fucking talented. But imagine for a moment if every time Samaj did something, all he ever got was shit on. Why would he continue? So that's why I want to help people like that. I want to sit there and be that guy that's like, you make fucking everything awesome, and I fucking love it. And god damn it, you are the best motherfucker I ever met in my life. You're fucking amazing. That's why I do that. Because I am the one goddamn voice every time when somebody actually shows some fucking talent. They will sit there and go, "You are the fucking shit." And it's the only positivity I have left in my goddamn soul is you've done something cool. Good job. And it's troubling that I even feel that is a necessity in this day and age. That I have to do it. Because if I don't, nobody will. I know other people are doing it, and I know other people will. But I still feel like if I'm not the dude that's gonna do it, they're not gonna hear it.
Well, you just feel like you want to do your part. Also, was I being propositioned there for a moment? 'Cause,
You know what I mean. Damn it! God damn it, Talos! Hang on, the kittens run off.
Well,
Sorry.
they're
I'm
saying
sure if you guys hear that.
they're saying as far as the celestial entities go, that Living Tribunal could show up.
Oh, probably. I imagine that the Eternals, I know, is already talks about being in development, so that's pretty cool. I really like the Eternals storyline.
Yeah, that one's very
Sorry.
Jack Kirby.
Talos ran off.
Yeah, since they kind of screwed up the Inhumans, I guess the Eternals would probably take their place.
I certainly hope so, which would be fine. I'm totally cool with that.
You can't run off, Talos. They'll ban your worship in Skyrim. Sorry, we have a kitten, and its name is Talos.
I saw the picture. It's so cute and tiny.
No, this cat's
Ichabod?
way more photogenic than it should be.
Ichabod, I don't think. I never thought I would ever have said this to you, but I really, really want to pet your pussy.
Ha 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 ha!
It's true though. It's so
I know.
cute. Ah. I go retarded over-
A great point.
Go so retarded over tiny baby animals, like you've no idea.
Who has a tiny
Hang
pussy?
on. I have a plan. I now have a plan. Where is that picture?
I swear to fucking Christ. Are you gonna do a no context tweet?
No, I'm going to send you a picture so you can do a no context tweet. There you go. There's a picture of a sleeping Talos.
It's so cute.
Oh yeah, no, she's losing her shit over how cute Talos is.
Oh no, wait! I want to see.
Hold on.
Oh my fucking god!
Hold on. Alright, let me. I can't even look. Okay, I can't look at this right now. Give me some time. Talk about Stanley and comic books and shit like that.
Oh
Like,
my god! Your cat's eyes is cute. It's fucking amazing. How new is your cat? Tell us.
Talos is just a baby. It just got weaned from its mom.
It's so cute.
Huh?
So
It's
cute.
very cute.
About 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Oh, that's adorable. Look at those big eyes. Look at them not fitting in the head. It's so cute. That's a nice picture.
I wasn't even.
Such a pussy.
I didn't even know this picture happened until like I woke up and saw it sent to me on the Discord.
Is Tyro and Doc and Smash alive?
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
I'm,
no,
alive.
we're-
I'm wondering, like, what is this cute photo thing that people keep talking about?
It's
I'm-
it's
Talos of
Ichabod's
Atmora.
cat. It's Talos, his kitten. It's cute. It has huge eyes.
Oh, I'm just waiting for Kadant to post it.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of
There it is.
speaking of
Oh,
superheroes,
that's cute.
I watched the first season of a Hulu original called The Awesomes. Holy fuck, is that shitty?
Oh, it's bad. Huh?
Oh,
Well, it was written by Seth Meyers, and I never found Seth Meyers to be funny in any way. I mean, the cast of Saturday Night Live when he was on it was bad, but he didn't enhance. He was not enhancement talent.
Let me 2 seconds, Kadante. Let's tag the others so they can see the cat.
Cadunt has not kitty posted yet.
Yes,
Oh, there it
she
is.
has. I'm. Oh fuck! I was about to.
Oh,
tag
that
her.
is
I
cute.
don't wanna.
Aw.
That is. I don't know what's Harrier the cat or the arm, but it's fucking adorable. I wish my cat was baby again. Now I'm just gonna go be disappointed at my cat.
I want to see the Mandarin again.
Oh,
The Mandarin.
I actually liked his rendition in Iron Man.
so did I. I get disappointed that he wasn't the Mandarin. I'm sorry. I didn't know the twist ending was kind of, but I really liked Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin up until that point.
I thought as a villain, I was like, this guy is like, I'm really Billy. I'm like this guy. Now, granted, it's a little spoiler where he's an actor. Yeah. But the actor guy, I actually liked him too. I thought he was very entertaining. With that said, though, as the Mandarin villain that they were portraying, I was intrigued. I want to know this guy.
Oh yeah, it would. Like at least Ben Kingsley is just a good actor, so he brought both characters. That's an interesting, intriguing villain, and then the actor guy's like, oh, that's kind of funny, but now I'm also kind of disappointed because he was a really good Mandarin.
Well, and I want to know what happened because in the I can't remember which Marvel movie it was at the end credit scene. They showed him in the prison.
No, that was a complete entire one shot called "Hail to the King."
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to remember where that was from, but I want to know what happens. I want to know what's going on. I worry though because sometimes Marvel will let villains just sort of wait and linger. It was kind of like what they did with the actor who played the Red Skull. Great job, but they got a completely different actor to play him in Infinity War.
Because he didn't.
Well, that's
want
because,
he didn't want to. He never wanted to do another one after the first one.
Well, I
Right.
suppose with all this talk of Nazis and shit of the like.
Oh no, that wasn't it. Hugo Weaving was allergic to the prosthetics for Red Skull. Yeah, he couldn't. He physically couldn't do it again.
He just said, "I don't want to. I can't do that." That's
Yeah.
Yeah. They had to
Which
find
sucks because he did a great job. However, this new actor also did a really good job. I couldn't. It wasn't until I looked him up on Wikipedia that I didn't realize they were different actors because this guy did a great job.
Oh well,
Yeah.
Ross Marquand is a great mimic too. He can.
Oh.
He's very good at impressions.
Oh, okay. There's another. There's a couple of them that I know. There's a guy who got a job. He works in Las Vegas doing impersonation. He's really good at it, and he got like I don't know how many millions of dollars working for. I think it was the state of Las Vegas or no, some business. I don't know. Really good. And another guy that's also equally good at voices, and I can't remember his name because I don't know if it was his real name, was the guy who played the Joker in the Suicide Squad at Assault on Arkham.
Oh, oh no, I'm sorry. That's the video game.
Yeah, no, it's the animated Suicide Squad movie. The guy who plays the Joker, he's a really good impersonator. Didn't quite hit the notes for the Joker, but for a while there, I couldn't tell it wasn't Mark. Guy who plays Luke Skywalker.
Mark Hamill.
Thank you, Mark Hamill. I should probably get going. It's like 3:00 in the morning right now, and I haven't been to bed yet. So I will.
You forgot Mark Hamill's name, so yes, go to bed, Samaj. You need rest. That's
Yeah, that's true.
why- That's the feed.
That's the problem there. Good point. Well, thanks for having me on.
Cross, who's that name?
Thanks for dropping in, Samaj.
No problem. Take care, guys.
Hey, thanks, brother. You're always welcome.
Thank you, Samaj. Later.
Bye, Smosh.
Sorry, it took me a little bit to stop going absolutely fucking retarded.
We had.
Yeah, hold on. I'm tagging you all in this one.
He's reclaiming the sweet rolls. Oh, that's cute. Ah, that's cute.
So fucking cute. God damn it.
Nah, Talos is a good cat. He's currently playing with Bridget's pen. Is that a pen? Okay, yeah, he's playing with the pen.
Yeah, the only one I see is for the animated is the one that came out this year with Suicide Squad called Hell to Pay.
I didn't even know they made an animated
No,
Suicide Squad.
There's two animated Suicide Squads. The first one, Attack on Arkham, is really good.
It
Assault
is.
on Arkham. It's really good. I haven't seen the new one. I didn't know they made another one.
Yeah, just came out this year.
I'm gonna have to watch that then. Let's see who they have in it.
Troy Baker did the Joker for Assault on Arkham.
Well, it's past work hours for me, and I'm emotionally and physically exhausted, so I'm gonna head out. All right.
Okay.
Well, we certainly
Next time.
appreciate you stopping by, Ichabod.
Next time I won't be so shouty.
No worries.
You're
And
fine,
you know
brother.
what?
You're
It's about-
fine.
Yeah.
It's good to be passionate about something. Fuck them cunts.
But
trying to
we
see it.
definitely went way longer than I was intending. So do we want to get the shilling process started, since I know that Tyro and Lo are both really good at shilling.
Oh, by the way, good morning, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
What do you mean we're not? We're not good at chilling.
Yeah, you are. You guys have a list, and you give information on what you're trying to show, as well as you're more than willing to show for other people. And we never got to show for Samaj. Forgot to ask him.
No,
And
that's the one reason to watch the Snatchcast is to watch Pasamaj.
Yes.
Samaj,
Samaj is worth. Yeah.
Samaj is on his own channel as well. He'll post videos of the artwork that he does.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
of course, follow him and follow his Tumblr even so you can see his art, because he does post there as well. Follow him on Twitter. It's under Samaj.
Wait, people still use Tumblr?
Yeah, he doesn't do it too much, but some people do. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we're rolling up to the 5 o'clock hour Eastern. So, yeah. If you wouldn't mind, please jump ahead and do a little shilling for us. Make sure and leave links in the chat, please.
Okay, let me find my links. I'll find links for all the things. Oh, link.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and start, I suppose. So, there we go. I am Tyro in Kuwait. I have my own channel. My most recent video was I did ASMR of Alterna Comics, specifically their social media policy. I like doing ASMR of stuff that normally doesn't get ASMR treatment. I think I'm going to keep that up, try to do like non-traditional ASMR stuff for funsies. I'm also on Moonifest Destiny, which is going to be tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central. With Lo-Fi, we've got the show document. We're finally back doing it. Our last show was October 9th, so we're jumping back on tomorrow now that all the technical difficulties are resolved. So we can finally start resuming the show. That'll be good. Yes, and Lo-Fi posted the link to Moonifest in there. Lo-Fi, what are you working on?
For once, I usually go a video every few months, but I actually have 4 in the making right now. Gonna be pumped out relatively soon. So there's gonna be a Texas review, best food of the states, and then there's some secret videos I want to talk about because they're gonna be fun jokes. But that's the other 2 one. And in my channel is here goes up to that one. I make mini videos, goes up. It's fun. That's it.
There we go. Also, I was trying to go back and make a list of everybody who's dropped by. And I know I'm missing people at this point, but I'm up to like 40.
I got it. There's only 4 people who dropped in.
No, I mean, overall
See,
through
here is
across the
Ichiban's
universe.
channel. If you want, I just linked that Ichiban. And let me find Smash, since I sub to everyone. There is. Yeah, it's
Oh,
Smash.
man, there's my
Channel.
yawn to start off.
And
Oh
also,
my.
there's one other channel here we need this channel. This is Doc Griffin's channel, so go sub to that one. And get up.
Whew.
And here, and Kadan's channel. And everyone has that channel in Katna.
I have a channel somewhere.
I linked your channel in the chat as well, Doc. Just cause.
Well, I've got Kadant and myself down in the descriptor box.
Doesn't matter. Now it's in chat. Now people don't have to press the show more.
So, Kadant, is there anything that you would like to share?
So, everybody, if you could just do me a nice solid and look in the description and click on Doc's Streamlabs. And then there's also Lo-Fi Streamlabs. Lo, if you can go ahead and post a link to that too. These are 2 people who, in my opinion, are worth your money. Like, they're really worth it. Lo makes a lot of fun and amazing content, and I'm not just saying that because she decided to keep me as her co-host for Not Safe for Wednesdays, which, by the way, Lo, we'll have to discuss because my schedule. I'm about to find out my schedule for work, but
Oh yeah.
and I'm not just saying that because Doc, chose me as his co-host for the Insomniac Ramble stream. I'm saying it because I'm fans of theirs, and pretty much like I'm about to be making some money, and what money I'm not saving for certain trips to certain places around Christmas time when I should have off. The money that I'm not saving for that is going to Lo, Doc, and even Samaj, because Samaj is the one who created my avatar, and I've been wanting to give him money for it since. But they're worth it, and I think you guys, like, if you were to become patrons of anybody, it'd be Doc and Lo. If you were to go and donate money in Streamlabs, I would always say give it to Doc and to Lo. And if you want some of that fine, awesome Doc stuff, he also has a TeePublic store. Doc, will you do the thing for the bootleg?
Oh, and if you're looking for the best in bootleg Medicare merchandise, please stop by the Doc Griffin TeePublic store.
Yeah, and if you like Lo's little avatar that she uses, and you want to see more of that kind of art, and you want to have just like a little piece of art, or maybe even just a Coxzilla mug, go check out her shop as well. She
Also
will,
has my avatar in there too.
yeah. So like, do the thing, guys. Like, they're the ones that I think are worth the money. Like, obviously we got a group of really, really loyal watchers, and I appreciate it, and loyal listeners, and if you find yourself with a couple bucks, like, give $1 to Lo and $1 to Doc. Like, that's how you should split it up, because they're both great, and trust me, like, go and check out some of Lo's content. Make sure to check out Doc's Doctor on Call interviews on Tuesdays.
Well, no, they
Yeah,
can't
but-
because they'll be over at Lunafest Destiny tomorrow.
Well, no, not the whole time. cause I double stream, I double tab it. Like it's the only time I ever pull out my laptop is when like I'm like shit, I need to watch this, but I also want to watch this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's say if it does go to shit with Ginger Lynn tomorrow, my backup has a voice that can be recognized coast to coast. He does voiceovers and station bumpers for some of the biggest radio stations throughout the nation. He is also a down south meteorologist and an all-around good guy and voiceover artist. So, and we'll all know once it hits about noon tomorrow whether or not Ginger's going to be around. If not, then you'll be listening to the lovely dulcet tones of Mr. Steve Taylor.
What's wrong with Ginger Lynn? Is she just not been getting back to you, or?
Yeah, she has not gotten back to me. I always do the thing where I'll book them a month in advance, then I'll send them an email a week before the show, and then I'll send an email a couple of days before the show. Well, since our initial interactions, she's not contacted me back at the week before, and I've sent out 2 emails on the last 2 days and haven't gotten any response.
Oh, I hope she responds.
Yeah, so I always plan, and if it doesn't work out, there's still going to be a show, and it's still a very interesting person to speak with. So
That's great. That's awesome.
yeah, because there's not a finite amount of interesting people out there.
It
So
depends on if they keep dying.
wow. So if in fact, things play out. Where are you at, Stan? There you are. So if things play out, that's the schedule for the rest of November. Ginger Lynn Allen this week. Next week, Random Encounters. And the week after, David Cummings from the No Sleep podcast. Dems my boys. And now Stan's back. But yeah. I'm starting to get a little loopy myself, so I will thank our guests who stopped by. Thank Tyro, of course, Lo-Fi, Samaj, and the Coon of Doom, Ichabod Orange. And also thanks to everybody for coming out. I certainly appreciate it. And hopefully we'll keep doing interesting things on this ramble stream and not just sound like a bunch of mush-headed idiots. But I think everybody who's ever been on the show has equated themselves stellarly, if that's a word. So, for my indomitable, unsinkable Molly Brown of a co-host, Kadant, and myself, Doc Griffin, thanks everybody for coming out, and please, just leave the money on the dresser. What?
What?
Are we offline?
I don't think we are. It's showing it continues to roll.
Well,
Let me reload.
Yep, I'm still showing us online on this end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Hold on.
Right.
well, hey,
No.
people, just leave the money in the dresser and get the fuck out of our stream.
Yeah.
Hold on. I think it's ended. Hold on. Yep.